Hello and welcome to the Deep NBA podcast. For fuck's sakes. One of your 50 tabs. Right click on ESPN.
Nah, I just want to see what it is though.
It's
a Hungry Jack's ad.
boating, camping, fishing, or Great Northern.
No, it was a Hungry Jack's ad.
The white fish.
HJs.
Right click on the tab, mute site. You never need to listen to ESPN ever again.
Is that permanent?
Yeah, just for ESPN sites.
Sick.
Yeah.
How will I know what the new offers at Hungry Jack's are?
Well, you don't want to eat them anyway.
Well, they do the Rebel Whopper.
Yeah, they haven't promoted that in a while, have they?
Yeah.
All right, let's just keep rolling with that. Nice Carly pick up from where we are. Welcome to the Deep NBA. Dante Belf. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you? More importantly, you've been under the weather. You know, looking a little bit pale.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bags under your eyes. You look like shit.
You've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, mate. Just, you'll have to excuse me to the listeners because I've got heaps of boogers.
A bit of a DNP non-COVID illness.
Yeah, literally. I took 3 rat tests. All of them came up negative, apart from the last one. I don't know. I just had every single symptom, but I woke up on Monday, which is a public holiday for us. Woke up, I think my alarm was set for 8:30 so I could watch the basketball. Started watching the playoffs. I think it was Miami Atlanta. Watched that, and this I felt sick the night before, but I was like, I'll just get up and watch it. Watched a quarter, and was like, I need to go back to bed. Set my alarm for 12:30 so I could watch the Bucks game. So I slept the whole night. Woke up, 15 minutes of Atlanta. Went back to bed. Woke up at 12:30. Watched a half of that game. Then went back to bed and woke up at 5, and that was my Monday. So then went to bed at 10 or whatever. So a lot of sleep.
That's a lot of snoozes. That's a lot of snoozes there.
Cruising, boozing, and snoozing.
To be honest,
no cruising, no boozing.
Long weekends. On Saturday and Sunday, the 2 nicest days of the long weekend, where it was like 25 plus degrees and beautiful sun. I spent each afternoon entirely on the couch watching either the basketball or the footy, and then snoozing for about 3 hours after.
What'd you do on the weekend?
Literally that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you probably felt better about yours though.
No, I actually felt terrible about mine because I woke up each evening being like, I have to go and do things now, and I've felt like a bit spacey after 3 hours on the couch, and I was in some positions as well. Like I was getting kind of a bit creative with my body positioning. Woke up, my wrist slick with dribble on Sunday.
Oh.
So
you also had no family obligations because your brother, shouts to brother of the pod, had COVID. So.
Yeah, Louis, brother of the pod.
Is he better now?
Yeah, he's all good.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's recovered. He's out in the world. Ladies, lock up your daughters.
Yeah, fuck. That's actually probably a very prudent fucking what's it called? Public announcement there.
Yeah. Should we talk some ball?
Fuck, all right. So before we do talk ball, actually no, this is ball. We'll just mention that the little bit of housekeeping. That the most recent article on the Deep2.com is up by me, Dante.
Deep2.com.
It's that simple, man.
That's so simple to remember.
That's all it is.
God.
And I'm talking about the road for the Charlotte Hornets to get off the treadmill of mediocrity, and it's a very hard one. Obviously, I don't want to spoil too much. Read the article, see what I say about how to fix this Hornets team, because it looks like Mitch Kupchak will be fired. Which, to be completely honest, the best time to do that is probably right now. But that's probably not going to happen.
Odds on Mitch Kupchak being fired, which will universally be received as a good thing, only to be replaced by someone more terrible.
Well, it has to be a North Carolina alum, as we know, in Michael Jordan's organisation. Odds probably pretty high, but what are the odds he gets fired after the draft? One of those absolute stupid decisions.
One of those ones.
Anyway, read that on deep2.com. You're going to have to excuse some sniffling if you do hear it from me, who's had a cold, and Dante, who just sniffles every now and again.
Yeah. Like a human person, I sniffle. It was a really good article, Sean. It was there's moments of just profound whimsy in there, as well as the usual hard-hitting analysis that readers have come to expect from you. So it is a good read. Get onto the site and check it out. All right, now should we talk some ball?
All right, now let's talk about the playoffs. Being sick, I have had the privilege of watching a lot more basketball than I usually do, and I've watched every single playoff game, barring both Dallas Utah games, and luckily they're not on our run sheet. But we'll start things off with Boston-Brooklyn, which is the most recent game that we both watched today, where the Boston Celtics won Game 2 in Boston, 114-107, and it was quite amazing that they actually won this game because they didn't play like exceptional. It wasn't like Game 1 where it's like, okay, Jason Tatum had a great game. It was like they were trailing for the whole entire game until the fourth quarter, where Brooklyn, it turns out that having an offense built around like a 37-year-old Goran Dragic and then a 17-year-old Bruce Brown isn't actually a sustainable offense in the playoffs. Bruce Brown, who had 23 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. Quite fruity from Bruce Brown, but really disgusting play by the Brooklyn Nets. What did you see in this game?
It's just hard to come away from this one not feeling like they've lost the series right here. And that was a sentiment that some people were saying after Game 1, to be so close and to be ahead until literally the last second of the game and then lose. Like, that's a bit of a gut punch. And today, they got almost 60 points from Bruce Brown, Seth Curry, and Goran Dragic.
Yeah.
And they scored 107. They got 37 points from KD and Kyrie on absolutely dog water shooting. KD and Kyrie combined to go 8 for 30. With 8 turnovers between them, which is not particularly good.
Yeah.
These are the sorts of games when you need to, like, the performance that, like, Bruce Brown gives you needs to, like, supplement your superstar's ability. It can't be, like, the driving force of your offense. Otherwise, you're not going to win. And I think what's maybe even more concerning than Durant's not really getting off the ground through the first 2 games, and Irving, who was phenomenal in Game 1, having a stinker today, is that there was no, like, scheming in the second half to, like, get anything done. Bruce Brown's points are, like, incidental points that just kind of come
100%,
come in the flow of, like, a healthy offense.
Yeah.
They're not things that you plan for. It's like found money.
Yeah.
And in the second half, and particularly the fourth quarter, there was literally no, like, scheme evident. There was no, like, offensive game plan. And Durant was being played straight up by Tatum, and they were bringing either Horford or Tice over to help, like, anytime Durant was trying to post up or get the ball on the wing. And they just kept on going to it. And Durant's just like, I need to impose myself on the game. I'm going to try and get something done here. And he's just, like, dribbling into either, like, one of the best wing defenders in the league or length and just hoisting jumpers.
Going into the best defense in
the
league.
And just, like, it wasn't working, and there was nothing else happening. There was no, like, it just sounded like there was no coaching from the sideline to say, okay, like, let's do this, let's do that. Like, if all else falls apart, go to a Kyrie KD pick and roll 5 times in a row and see what happens.
Yeah. And, like, sort of give it to Bruce Brown a little bit here, because, like, nothing seemed to be going on for Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. But, like, at least Bruce Brown would get the ball. Like, he would maybe run, like, a little bit of a dribble handoff with KD. It didn't work. He would get it again. He would, do a bit of an Iverson cut with the ball, run across the floor, try and get someone to cut around him, and there was no movement at all. It was like Seth Curry's in the corner. He's like, hey, I'm happy here. Nick Claxton's like, hey, I'm just going to keep changing low post because obviously you're not going to post me up. Let me just get out of the way. So then Bruce Brown just keeps running it. He was sort of like a tunnel between Kyrie and KD.
Yeah.
Like, well, that one didn't work. I better run it back over here. I'll run it back over here. And look, he's having a career night as well. Like, fair play to him. But, like, you give it to Kyrie, and Kyrie's like, awesome, I've got the ball. Time to go against the Defensive Player of the Year one-on-one. And a lot of the times he went one-on-one, it was actually against Jaylen Brown, who might actually be a better defender on Kyrie specifically. And it was just, like, disgusting. Like, I'm going for Brooklyn in this series, as I said on the JVG show the other week. Like, I'm going for him, and I want to see Kevin Durant win. But, like, he's just getting the ball, clearing out, and just trying to, like, shoot over him, which he can do. But, like, when he's 4 of 17 today, and Kyrie Irving was 4 of 13 today, took 1 3 and got to the free throw line once for 2 free throws. But 2 of those 4 makes were actually offensive rebounds that bounced out to him around about the free throw line, and he just put it back up. So, like, if you take away those, let's call them offensive rebounds, even though they're not like a traditional Andre Drummond one, he was 2 for 11 from the floor. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? A, that's not enough shots for a dude on a team that is, like, so empty without him and KD. And, like, what are you doing?
Well, like, on a day when Brown and Dragic and Curry are all scoring really well and really efficiently, like, I don't necessarily think that you need Durant and Irving to take more than 30 shots between them, because there are going to be games like that where your superstars don't need to take 20 plus shots. Like, you can just, you know, like, supplement the role player scoring with, like, good efficient offense. Just the fact that, you know, he was 4 for 13, 2 for 11 if you discount those teammates that you're talking about. If he was 7 for 13 and Durant was 8 for 17, then it's not even a close game. Yeah. It's not a close game at all. I think as well, like, with Irving in particular, I just didn't really see much, like, desire in the second half. There would be heaps of times where he'd be defended by Smart or Brown, and he'd be either starting in the corner or just starting on the wing. If he was in the corner, he'd come up to the wing as, like, Brown or Seth Curry is bringing the ball up. And he's like being face guarded. It's really clear that the action is supposed to go to him first. But his defenders making it really difficult for him to get the ball. So he just kind of, like, gives up. And then Brown or Curry is basically got the ball at the top of the 3 and just goes to the opposite side where there's nothing going on. And then the upshot of that is either, if that's to start the possession, you just fuck around with 15 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah.
Or if that's midway through the possession, which sometimes it is, then you're sending the ball to the other wing where that's where the shot's going to come from, when there's no player over there who can actually, like, do something with the ball the same way that Kyrie or Durant could do it. And Durant was being guarded the same way by Tatum. And he, again, like, you know, he was being face guarded and the action would just go the other way, and they're both, like, there were times when they're both on the same wing, like one in the corner, one in the wing, and the ball's just going to the other side where it's like 3 role players, and that's not really what you want.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing as well is that, like, Tice played quite a lot. Tice played 31 minutes. He gave them 15 points and 6 boards. And he was actually, like, good defensively. He was kind of coming out on the perimeter, particularly on Durant, to double and just, like, being there and being long. And he's someone who should be the weak point in this lineup. Like, Irving and Durant should both be trying to get Tice on switches. And, you know, obviously they want to drop. They don't want Tice coming out to switch. But, like, a good team will make the switch happen. Otherwise,
eventually.
Otherwise, you'll punish it on the pull-up, and neither was happening. It was like if they couldn't get Tice on the switch, they would just go elsewhere. So if you can't get Tice on the switch because he's dropping back, you've got 2 of the best mid-range shooters you got 2 of the 5 best mid-range shooters in the league. Chris Paul and Devin Booker in there as well. Like, make something happen, and they just couldn't. And there was no, like, it was like, yes, the Stars had a bad game, but there was no, like, recognition from the coaching staff, like, hey, Durant's having a bad game, let's run these 3 actions, you know, like, twice in the 4th quarter each, so that we can get him some easy looks and get going. Everything was difficult, and it shouldn't be hard to generate decent looks for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, even if you're playing against the best D in the league. Like, you should just be able to do that. Like, there's no amount of D that can actually, like, prevent a decent look from being manufactured. You just have to think your way through how you actually want to manufacture it. And from the coaching staff, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's weird. And there were also some weird rotation decisions by Steve Nash. Like, Kessler Edwards checked in the first quarter, and then the commentators, can't remember who they were, but they were like, oh, you know, Kessler Edwards, he's a rookie, you know, he's really found a way onto this team, he's playing a role. He played 3 minutes in the first quarter and never came back on.
One of the commentators was Stan Van, so don't expect too much.
Well, look, I really like Stan Van as a commentator. You don't. Goran Dragic, who I thought wouldn't be in the playoff rotation, had a really good game, 8 for 14. He played 20 minutes, but, like, you know, I say Kyrie Irving didn't take enough shots. Like, I think he should be taking 20 shots a night. But Goran Dragic, took more shots at him, which I'm starting to think this is less of a coaching decision and more of just like, okay, maybe Curry's doing something weird here. Like maybe there's something we don't know.
There was a definite lack of drive to impose himself. To impose himself on the game. And that wasn't what we saw in game one, where he was magisterial. He was
that fucking lexicon.
Yeah, fucking book it. He didn't. Yeah, I hate to be like all first take, but he didn't want it. He didn't want it. And like now's not the time to not want it. Like you just.
I understand what you mean. It just sounds like Stephen A.
Well, it is very Stephen A. But sometimes there's a bit of truth to what Stephen A. says. Sometimes. On the Celtics side, I thought Horford did a really good job defending on the perimeter. Like fucking, interestingly and devastatingly for the Nets. Horford was doing plenty of switching out onto the perimeter. Tyus is dropping every time. Horford was just switching, and he was staying with Durant. Like there were a couple of times Durant tried to shake him, and Durant can get his shot over anyone. But if there's a 6'11" guy that's sticking with you, it's harder to get your shot over him than it is over Tatum, who's 6'8".
Yeah.
So I thought Horford did really, really well defensively. Tatum had a pretty dud game offensively, but his D on Durant has just been so good. It's been really impressive. Not impressive enough to make Durant be shooting like 35% from the floor through 2 games. But still like worthy of commendation.
Well, look, I'm happy to move on, but looking forwards in this, there have been reports, and there was a report from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN that Ben Simmons is targeting a Game 4 return. This started to sort of swell when Shams Charania said that Ben Simmons wants to come back this series. I was assuming that he would be playing the whole entire playoffs because back injury is scary, and he said he had a back injury.
Yeah, so, he said a lot of things.
He said a lot of saga. Not sure what to believe, but. Like, can we assume Ben Simmons coming back is a good thing? And
we can't.
He hasn't played since the semi-finals last year. We don't even know how he fits with this Brooklyn team. He just started doing 4-on-4 workouts today. Also, what's with like 4-on-4 workouts are like obviously there's less players on the court, but that's like an easier ramp up than just doing 5-on-5 workouts. So like, do you literally progress 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until you're ready to get on the court?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like if you're gonna go play 4-on-4 at Coburg, is that going to be so much easier on your body than a 5-on-5?
Well, I much prefer playing 4-on-4 because there's a bit more room for me to work. I can get into my bag a little bit more. Ben Simmons doesn't have a bag, so I don't know what the benefit is for him. But in all seriousness. No, you can't assume that a bloke who literally hasn't played in like almost a year is going to come out and actually A, play, and B, do anything meaningful. And I just hate it. Seeing him on the sideline and he's like wearing this obnoxious chain and this really like obnoxious... It's like, this guy needs to be studied as like a case study in like...
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter, narcissist edition. Like he clearly just thinks he's top shit, even though after everything that's happened, and also like I don't know that we've talked about this on the pod. It's obviously old news, the back injury, but like you spend all that time like fucking around, not training with the team, even though you're at the facility, so you don't get fined. Like skating through on technicalities, talking about your mental health. The literal least you can do that whole time, especially considering that you're angling for a trade and you're going to most likely going to take the 76ers to court to try and recoup your fines.
They are doing that now. It's official.
The least that you can do is like keep yourself in like a good condition. So how the fuck do you hurt your back bad enough to keep you out for the playoffs?
Yeah.
How the fuck do you hurt your back bad enough to miss 20 games? Like what were you doing? You just need to maintain physical condition. Now, obviously, you can jump and hurt your back, and it's like, oh, it's just a freak accident. But like, considering that NBA players who are playing in the NBA generally are in good enough condition that when they're playing games, they don't just jump and hurt their back. You're not even playing games. You're just doing physical training. How do you hurt your back? Anyway, the whole situation is rotten.
It's very, very weird.
And he's going to come in and like, he's going to come in and play maximum 15 minutes and it's going to be like, oh, sick.
Yeah.
Set some screens, you know, like he gets an assist in the short roll, you know, and maybe gets like a nice block. Cool. Like, I think this series is done. Like, Brooklyn, I'd probably put my eggs in the basket of going back to Boston for Game 5 with Boston up 3-1.
Yeah.
I think Brooklyn will win a game, but like 2 just gut punches back to back in games 1 and 2.
Hey, at 12 Don Yang. Do you like hearing the down low on all your NBA and basketball content?
Hey, at Will Conkin on Instagram and Twitter. Don't you mean the lowdown on NBA and basketball content?
No, I mean the down low, because that's our show, The Down Low,
where we give you the lowdown on everything NBA.
Check out The Down Low NBA on all your podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple, or even Google Podcasts.
Google has podcasts?
Yeah, I didn't even know that either, but now you know, so go and get it in your ears.
All right, let's move on to the Phoenix and New Orleans series. So your Phoenix Suns lost a game in the 1-8 series.
Time honoured tradition.
Is it?
Tradition. Heaps of ones lose. Heaps of ones lose to the 8.
Sure. Some teams go 16-0, 16-1.
Some teams win the most games ever in a regular season and then don't win the chip also after being up 3-1 in the finals. But, you know.
That first half sounds pretty spicy. All right, so what are you thinking as soon as you lose to Marco Holden Jeffrey's very own New Orleans Pelicans?
I'm thinking, should I not have been so dismissive of the Pelicans as as deserving of a spot in the postseason? I'm thinking that the Pelicans through 2 games have actually through 6 quarters, excluding the first half of game 1 where they shot approximately 12% from the field.
Yeah.
They've actually acquitted themselves really well and they're playing hard. CJ and Brandon Ingram have been really good and they're getting like good contributions from their role players. And you know, I don't think we're in any danger of losing this series. And you know, having lost home court is not a big deal for us because we won just as many games at home as we did on the road. So we can definitely go into the SKC, the Smoothie King Centre, otherwise known as the Blender, which is bound to be absolutely jumping. We can go in and win, you know, a game, 2 games. Like, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. The thing that really concerns me for this series, but also, you know, with one eye looking forward, is that Devin Booker has done his hammy again. So midway through the 3rd quarter.
When did he do it the first time?
He did it the first time in the playoffs last season. And then when he missed, I think he missed 12 games during this, like 12 games in a row during this regular season with the hammy, like middle of the season. It's the same hammy, the right hamstring. He hasn't like strained it or torn it or anything, but he left the game in the middle of the 3rd quarter with right hammy soreness. This is after putting up 31 points in the first quarter.
Yeah,
so
he was bussing.
He didn't take a shot.
I've never said that word out loud.
Bussing. He didn't take a shot in the 3rd quarter. So, you know, he was kind of not a huge part of the offense. But I feel like, you know, in a game that was close until like the last 5 minutes. Ironically, the last 5 minutes when we're the best team in the NBA in clutch situations was when the Pelicans actually really put it away. But I feel like if Booker had been out there for the whole game, like in the form that he was in, we would have at least, you know.
You would have won. You're allowed to say you would have won. Yeah. Like, he was playing extremely well, and some of the shots he was taking were just like supreme confidence. He sort of came out with a chip on his shoulder in game 2 after winning game 1 against the 8 seed, where it's like, there's really no reason for this. Like,
hey, you got to do what you got to do to get the motivation.
Exactly, you got to do what you got to do. And he looked fucking beautiful while doing it. Like, he was awesome. He obviously dapped up to Baby, who was sitting courtside. Oh wow, I don't even get a fucking smile off that one. But
no, I turned my head to my laptop to read something, and then I didn't quite listen when you were speaking. That was really cute when he gave the fist bump to the Baby.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Hashtag this is why we play.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that Twitter page popped up where it's like NBA? It's like NBA Renaissance clash things, where it's getting a whole bunch of like Renaissance images and then comparing them to the NBA. So it'll be like You know.
Oh, well, like Renaissance paintings.
Yeah,
and
Renaissance paintings. I don't know why I call them pictures. I'll get it for you later. It's actually not going to do well in an audio medium. But like, you know, this is a great win by the Pelicans. I think this is still a gentleman's sweep. Like they shot 17 out of 30 from three. That's probably not going to happen too often.
And in the second half, it was like, can you miss a three?
Yeah, it was like CJ
It was
pull-up.
a bit insane. Like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, and you've still got the best lineup on the whole entire court, where even without Devin Booker, because you've got Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, Slam Johnson, Bossman 99, and DeAndre Ayton. And Ayton, like, he lost his matchup against JV in game 2, which is like in game 1, he just absolutely ate the crap out of him.
Yeah, literally. I don't know that I've seen a one-on-one matchup.
Yeah, it changed so much.
A one-on-one matchup that didn't involve Gobert being so one-sided.
Yeah.
It was as in game 1, like JV. Yes, JV had like 20 rebounds, but he also had like 12 points on 20 shots.
Yeah.
And Ayton had like 5 blocks, like 3 or 4 of which were on JV, and I don't know, but let's say 20 points.
Yeah.
I think he had 21 and 9 with like 5 blocks.
Yeah. But it's like I sort of hate saying this and hate hearing this from people on podcasts who aren't like close to the situation. But with DeAndre, you get a little bit of sort of mental lapses from him. Do you sort of see that, where it's a bit like if he's not fully locked in, he's not fully committed, and we've seen this in like his rookie seasons, and obviously there were the things talking about his drive for the game and the fact that like as soon as he got into the bubble, he's like, well, I want to be playing video games and stuff. There's been drive questions about dominating before, so you could sort of construct this narrative where it's like, okay, he absolutely ruled the matchup in game 1. You look like you're going to somehow sweep them in 3. This is how bad it is. And then he comes out in game 2 like, yeah, we got this, and sort of just gets absolutely hammered by JV, who's just a veteran who's going to do that if you're not ready for him. Do you sort of get those vibes?
Yeah, kind of. But I think that as long as Monty and Chris Paul are there, they'll keep him on task and keep him, you know, like looking at the situation at hand. I think as well, usually, you know, if Ayton's having a bad game or he's experiencing those lapses, we've got JaVale McGee, arguably the best backup center in the league, to come in and just kind of like be...
Sorry, I've got Isaiah Hartenstein's agent on the phone. He actually wants to let you know that he led the league in defensive plus minus coming off the bench.
Is that the new Maxi Kleber leading the league in block
Maxi Kleber,
we're not talking about that series. We can't talk about it. It's banned.
But did to Rudy Gobert what has been done to him for the past 3 years.
Yeah, no, he did.
And
also, beyond bird.
Unlike, you know, being Batum, like Maxi Kleber can actually defend at the 5.
Yeah.
Remember how I was super high on him 3 years ago?
Yeah, when he had the highest block percentage in the league.
Yeah.
I was saying something relevant, but
I forgot what it was. JaVale McGee, best backup.
JaVale McGee,
you don't mind.
Yeah. Usually when JaVale comes in, he's going to win his matchup, like playing just like rim roller, rim protector. Didn't help in this game that Jackson Hayes had probably his best ever career performance, and was just like, he was running the fast break like a fucking, you know, like a Div 3, an athletic player in like Div 3 college basketball, just getting whatever he wanted in transition, and then defending the rim really well. He had there was that block on block sequence where he tried to post up Mikal Bridges and shoot a fadeaway over him, and Mikal just got over the fadeaway and like spiked the ball into the ground, took the ball himself, and then went the whole way and just tried to yam 2 hands all over Jackson Hayes, who met him right at the summit, 2 hands, pinned it against the backboard so clean. It was really nice. So
I still don't think he's a 4 in the league.
No, he's definitely not. Like that's a solution out of necessity for Willie Green. But what I do think is that going forward, like, the Ayton will be refocused from himself and from the veteran leadership on the team, and Jackson Hayes isn't going to play that well again. So we should have, between McGee and Ayton, we should have the center matchup locked. The one guy I want to talk about on offense is Bridges, because he's been absolutely terrible through 2 games. And he's getting frustrated with himself because he's missing his corner threes. He's shot like 45% on corner threes for the season. And he's missing his above the break threes. Like, he's a 40% 3-point shooter. He's not having as much luck kind of like snaking to the rim off the dribble. He's clearly frustrated. He clearly feels like he should be doing more. And I said after game 1 that it would come in game 2. But I'm saying after game 2 that's going to come in game 3, he's going to have a monster. He's going to have a monster performance in New Orleans. And he's going to have like 25 plus points and he's going to be completely locked in. And it's going to be a problem for CJ and Brandon Ingram on defensive end. And he's going to, 25 plus. Like, it's coming.
I agree with you.
Ingram was excellent in this game as well. Like Ingram was unplayable. Like even with Mikhail.
Honestly, when Tiny Beast gets to his spots, and what I liked watching in the game between New Orleans and the Spurs was that there was literally no one tall enough to guard Brandon Ingram. So it's like he literally was just like, okay, there's this little square, usually where DeMar DeRozan takes his shots from. I'm going to go around there, maybe a little bit further. I'm going to turn my back on you, and all of a sudden the ball's going to be in the basket. You've got taller defenders, but if he gets to his spot, like it is literally just a coin flip whether it goes in or not. And it's a skill that, just sort of looking forwards and a bigger picture here, it's something that can definitely be repeatable, and we're seeing it with DeMar DeRozan this season, where it's like, oh, the mid range sucks, but if you can be that good at it, then yes, it's a talent. I just wonder what happens when because Zion can't defend at the 5, so he's going to have to play next to a traditional 5. If it is JV who takes 1.2 threes a game, what does that spot for Brandon Ingram look like when you've got 2 bigs down there at the exact same time? But before we look at that, he kicked the shit out of you guys. Yeah,
he did. I feel good though about like being able to defend him at the rim, because there were a few times where he got in tight to McGee and Ayton and just the length there. Like he was kind of bothered. Like he can't really get a shot off without doing like a crazy pivot. And it was often when he's picked up his dribble, so the footwork doesn't necessarily come into play as much there. Although he does have incredible footwork, as that baseline fading spin showed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he and CJ have been really, really good. Herb Jones has played some really good D, and they're getting like good contributions from random guys like Jackson Hayes. Trey Murphy's been good. I think that. Look, we'll probably just insert, as you said before, Slam Johnson into the starting lineup at the 3, but Mikhail down to the 2, and play at a snail's pace with Chris just like dictating everything.
Chris Paul might actually have to score in the first quarter for the first time all year.
Yeah, literally. And just after we've been talking, I've looked up the latest. So Booker is unlikely to play in games 3 and 4, but that will be somewhat like Luka's calf strain, where it's like, well, he's probably not going to play in the next game. And after the next game, it'll be like, he's probably not going to play in the next game either.
Yeah.
So, developing situation there. He missed 7 games with a hammy during the season, and we went 5-2 during that run.
Against New Orleans level talent teams as well, probably.
I still feel good about it, but not to do a Sean Carroll and in round 1 start talking about how excited you are for the conference finals, which you definitely put that out into the ether yesterday. Not to forecast too much, but like we can't win a championship if Devin Booker's out. We probably can't even get to the conference finals if Devin Booker's out. So
you are so fucking cautiously optimistic. It hurts. I can't wait to talk about this next team because it's fucked. But before we do, two closing points on the Suns. You're paying Landry Shamet 4 years, $40 million after this year. It kicks in next year. You sort of hope that he can take over Devin Booker when he's injured.
Shamet was actually good when Booker was out. Like, he averaged like 13, 14 points, and he was like putting pressure on the rim. And he's I never realized this until he played for the Suns, but he's like a sneaky athletic. He can kind of get up and throw it down.
I'm sneaky athletic if I stop drinking beers.
Second point, Shamet turned it on at the end of the season.
Your second point or my second point?
My second point. Shamet turned it on at the end of the season. So like long-time listeners of this podcast will remember me absolutely lambasting the deal to trade Shamet for Javon Carter and a first-round pick, and then pay him $10 million a year. But I actually don't feel that bad about it now.
Cool. Second point. Jose Alvarado tried to do his little bullshit. And Chris Paul, like, he didn't even look at him at the start. He just knew that he was coming and just said, "Get the fuck back on defense."
He waved him up.
That's probably the best response I've seen to that so far.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the SeanBowl.
The SeanBowl, the absolute fucking premier event in Deep 2 podcast lore.
Dude, it's going to be over in 4. It's Golden State versus Denver. This is like so beautiful to watch. This is like, think about it. This is the third time. Game 1 was the third time Steph, Clay, and Dre have shared the court in just over 2 years. The first time being 7 seconds when Draymond fouled out. The second time being 11 minutes before Steph injured himself again. The three players are there, and out of those big three, who are 16-0 when they start a playoff game together, out of those big three, Jordan Poole's the best player on the court. How fucked is that? He's playing so well, and it is so fun to watch. And he's taken Steph Curry shots. We've been talking about this for months now, but he's taken shots where Draymond's flung him the pass before he's even curled off the screen. He's taken those like sort of Matthew Lloyd, throw the fucking grass up in the air, check the wind. Like he'll be running down transition. He sort of kicks his right leg out before he just like really palms the ball. Looks over his shoulder. There's 5 players in front of him, but he looks over his shoulder just to be swaggy Poole, and then drains a three. And it's fucking beautiful. What do you think when you watch this Golden State team?
I think just on Poole, it's literally insane that he's this good after the way that his career started. If you show
we go different directions here.
Well, if you said to me, if you had told me 2 years ago when he was literally the worst player in the NBA, the other rookies who have been the worst player in the NBA in their first season is like the Kevin Knox and the Cam Reddishes of the world.
Kevin Love.
We're going back. That's so Love, bro.
Emmanuel Moody.
What did Jordan Poole shoot as a rookie? Like 25%?
What did it start with?
Yeah, what did it fucking start
Probably
with?
Probably a 1.
Anyway, he's so wiggly. He kind of reminds me of me at Lord's Recreation Centre in Subiaco in Perth. Once upon a time. But he does have that little wiggle to kind of get past anyone. Like, if you switch a bigger defender onto him, I'm looking at you, Aaron Gordon, like, tangent within the tangent. Aaron Gordon, what are you doing in this series? Like, you're the defensive stopper who's just getting filleted every time a ball handler goes at you, and you're not really fucking doing much offensively. You're not making... What was he, like 1 for 9 on threes in game 1?
I'll talk about Aaron Gordon.
Disgusting. Anyway,
we can also talk about Filet-O-Fish as well.
Anyway, like, no matter who it is, there's no matchup for Poole.
There's no matchup for Steph, Poole, Dre.
Well, and how many minutes has Steph played through?
23.
Yeah, through 2 games. He played
6 minutes of the year. That's the part of Warriors Twitter I hate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fucking insufferable. He played 23 minutes, and Steph had 34 points in 23 minutes, and he was a plus 32. So okay. I just wanted to jump in with a stat. An absolutely outrageous stat that I read in John Hollinger's column this morning. And you know what I was reflecting on this afternoon? John Hollinger is my favourite writer at The Athletic. And he's just a really good writer. Not a journalist, not an analyst. Like, he's just a really good writer with really engaging command of the English language, which I appreciate greatly. But then you think about the fact that he was like a premier like stats analyst, is like how he started his his career, a maths guy. He's just inventing formulas and shit that like become foundational in the way that we understand the game. And then he had like a moderately successful stint literally running an NBA team.
He was the second in command.
And then he's come from that and just been like, third installment of my career, I'm just going to become a journalist. And he's really, really good. And I was like, fuck, to be able to do 3 completely different things in your life and excel at all of them, like what a gift. Anyway,
well, side note there, my dad says cats have 9 lives and humans have 9 different careers. So yeah, you can excel at 9 different careers.
Tell you what, your dad, Finbar,
gems, mate.
Yeah, you know what my dad says?
What?
He says the oxen are slow, but the earth is patient.
Dad also says, Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump over the candle's wick. So, like, it's a coin flip whenever you get one.
Is that the most Irish sentence anyone's ever said?
No, the most Irish sentence was, I said the blind man, but he couldn't see it all. And then some deaf person. Like, it's some Irish saying.
Yeah.
Hey, that was really good. I'm really happy I delayed the pod. What's your stat?
The stat is this lineup in the playoffs, i.e. 2 games. The following lineup: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole has played 11 minutes over 2 games. But they have a 204.3 offensive rating and a net rating of 129.3. For reference, for anyone who's not super familiar with net rating, if your like best starting five had like a net rating of 7, you'd literally sweep a team. If you had 5 guys playing 35 minutes and you had a net rating of 7, you'd win a series in 4 games. And the net rating for this brief period of those guys playing together is 129, which for those playing along who are bad at math, 129 is 122 more than 7. So there's quite a big difference here in terms of what a really good offense looks like and the brief sample that we have here, which is just like, pretty fucking, from a neutral perspective, like amazing. But from someone who's like, this is like the 7th year of like the Golden State dynasty, if we can call it that. This era of light
You're
years.
allowed to call it that.
Well, you haven't won a championship in like 5 years. So
Sorry, Dante. When's Phoenix won a title?
Yeah.
So anyway, going back to the dynasty.
This is the 7th year. Like I appreciate beautiful basketball. They're fun to watch, but on some level, I'm a bit over it. And having found someone in Jordan Poole who's just like the perfect complement to this iteration of the team is kind of annoying that it's like
it's pretty
there's
unfair.
no like respite in sight, because it's like Dre's been injured and like doesn't look like himself, and now it's like, oh, he's fully back to himself. Clay missed 2.5 years with like the most devastating set of injuries, the 2 most devastating injuries a player can have, an Achilles and an ACL back to back without stepping foot on the floor. And now he just looks like almost entirely what he was. Steph's had like a down year. He's been injured. Like he's just coming back. We're bringing him off the bench and he's fucking plus 32 in 23 minutes. And Jordan Poole is just lighting it up. Like it's annoying.
Yeah.
It is annoying to see. Truly.
Light years ahead.
Saying a refrain often repeated by friend of the pod and Portland Trailblazers superfan Remy Picciani and myself is the rich get richer. And truly, the rich here are getting richer. Like it's the accumulation of wealth in the Bay Area is simply frightening at this point, and it's annoying.
It is annoying, but let's be real for a second. This is
we weren't being real. I was being completely real. It's annoying.
This is the best team for Golden State to play against in the first round because they have absolutely no perimeter defenders whatsoever.
This team makes Utah's perimeter defense look good.
So Aaron Gordon is like he did a good job at guarding Damian Lillard in last season's playoffs simply because there was no one else there who could do it. But Aaron Gordon's best role is to defend the bigger wings, which I wonder how many big wings they're going to face in the next 5 years, because Kawhi Leonard's getting old, LeBron might retire, and you're only going to face Jason Tatum in the finals.
Hey, what about Paul George?
Tall George. So like, it's not Aaron Gordon isn't the best at defending smaller guards. So at some point you have to be like, hey, smaller guards, defend your smaller guards. But all these dudes, like, and one of the problems with playing Jokic is that he's obviously being a lumbering big man. You're gonna have some troubles when you call for a screen. This season he has done an excellent job at just putting in 110% effort on that end of the court at all times. So like when he gets up to hedge a screen and blitz a pick and roll, he does an excellent job of that because he will literally get his toes over the 3-point line and then leg it back to his man, who's Kevon Looney or Draymond Green, and he's done a good job of that. And throughout the regular season, he's done a good job of that. He's doing the exact same thing he does now, except just because you're playing against Jordan Poole, Steph, and Clay, you have to get your whole body over the 3-point line because they can shoot it from so much further. And I think about 5 times in game 2, like because he was doing that heaps in game 1, and then the Warriors just passed it around and they would get wide open layups. But in game 2, Steve Kerr was just like, why don't you just like go back around the pick and roll, because as soon as you get Jokic coming out on an island, he's going to die on a screen because he's already sprinted out there. He's just out of energy in the short term. So Jordan Poole so many times was just like, oh, there you are, Jokic, crossed it back. Looney's so good at just quickly turning, and it's a legal screen. And then I think he got 2 shooting fouls. One was a 4-point play. One of them was 3 free throws. And then so many times he'll just get that. And if he wasn't getting fouled, the next man will rotate over, bang, wide open corner 3. And then, things just happen from there, and it's beautiful. So this is the perfect team to play against. And there's some questions for the Nuggets about how they're going to get perimeter defense, because PJ Dozier would be very, very good to have in this series, but they obviously traded him because he tore his ACL. So how they get perimeter defenders, it's a question. They're probably going to have to trade Will Barton's contract, but we'll get to that when they're actually eliminated. But on offense, like, this might be one teams in the league that can just single cover Jokic and just be happy with it because you've got Draymond Green. Like, even if you've got Rudy Gobert, you still can't single cover him just because Jokic eats the fuck out of Rudy Gobert. So Draymond Green and even Kevon Looney doing a fine job at Jokic is just like, wow, that is so incredible, because as soon as you don't even have to think about showing a double, like maybe one of the guys is going to duck down and just swipe just to make him think, but as soon as you single cover him, then Aaron Gordon doesn't get 15 of his 16 points a game. Bryn Forbes goes from shooting 5 threes a game to shooting 1 3 a game. Austin Rivers is bad at basketball on both ends. I don't think he should factor into this conversation. Monty Morris doesn't get his free little mid-range pull-ups, right? So as soon as Jokic is just not taken out of the equation, like he's going to get 30 points. He's going to get 30 points, 10 rebounds, and maybe not 10 assists, but he's going to eat, but he doesn't want to eat all the time. He doesn't want to be like, all right, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to bang for 20 seconds and score. Like, he likes drawing the attention and then making the perfect play, and the Warriors aren't letting him do that. And it's like, I think the only fix Denver can do on defense, just give up and maybe just try and just make them shoot from half court and maybe walk it back. But on offense, like, Jokic has to go in and score 50, 60, 70 points just so that the Warriors will have to be like, okay, shit, maybe we should start doubling. Then the fucking offense starts. Like, right now the offense isn't starting, and Will Barton dribbling for 5 times before shooting a contested mid-ranger, that's not doing it. That's one thing Boogie and I agree on. But, like, Jokic has to score 50 plus, but the thing is, he's not going to do it because Draymond Green's good enough to make him just score 30, not 50. So it's really puzzling. But also, like, you know, you put Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. on this team, all of a sudden holes are getting opened up elsewhere. But it's a perfect series for Golden State, perfect series for the Golden State media cycle to churn over again as we push towards the Western Conference Finals to meet your Phoenix Suns.
Yay. I can't wait. You're right in mentioning the lack of perimeter defenders that Denver has. I just want to hark back to that for a second. Bones played 17 minutes, Rivers played 21, and Bryn Forbes played 24. So just having those guys out there is a target for literally anyone on the floor. But then if you're cross-matching and putting Gordon on Poole or Gordon on Curry, that's leaving one of those guys defending like either
Otto Porter Jr.
Well, if they're out there in a staggered lineup, it's going to be something like Otto Porter Jr. Wiggins is out there. Wiggins is really good at just taking smaller guards into the paint and then just shooting over them, like not really posting up, just kind of like half turning his body and getting into the paint and just like taking a floater or, you know, a fadeaway. It's just bad. There's just not a lot of options. And the double-edged sword here is like, if Jokic does go in and score 40, well, amazing, you've got 40. But the only reason why any of these dudes are even able to contribute is because Jokic helps them to contribute. Like, Jokic is the training wheels for all of these guys. Like, no one can really create their own shot consistently and efficiently. So without Jokic having that kind of like involving pass-first mentality, the performance of like the support and the role players is going to dip. So, you know, like it's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. The idea of Jokic going and scoring 40 or 50 is kind of like a sword of Damocles, because it's just dangling over you that if you do this, if he has this amazing mentality and this amazing performance, like, it's still gonna fuck you over. So bad time to be a Nuggets fan. I know you must be struggling with this, but there's always next year, right?
Yeah, of course. For those who didn't read Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief, a sword of Damocles is an impending disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very succinct way of...
Is that Greek mythology?
Yeah, it's Greek mythology. There's a throne, like the king's throne, and whoever's going to take it gets to be the king, but above the throne is like this massive sword, vertically suspended by like a single horsetail hair.
Oh, that's precarious.
So precarious. So you get to be the king, but you might get, like a broadsword embedded in your skull. So Jokic can get to be the king and score 40 or 50. He can just fucking do it, and everyone else is going to score 8 points and they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Do we want to hit? Do you want to hit like a few like nicks and knacks from the other series? Do you have any like notes that you want to?
We do. I was just going to ask you one question, because you know how Achilles, when he swam in that river, what's it called?
The Styx.
Yeah, fuck, you're good at this. And he had to think of where he wants his weakness to be. He said his Achilles heel.
His mum had to do that because he was a child.
Really?
He was a baby.
No, I didn't know that. I thought he did. If you were to swim in the river Styx, where would you think about your weakness?
I actually have thought about this before, and I used to say the bottom of my foot, like somewhere that like a stray arrow in a battle wouldn't hit me. But then it's kind of like if you're like walking,
if you're fighting in Legoland,
step on something, yeah, you're fucked. Probably like I don't know, like the back of my neck, like right here, like kind of between the spine and the shoulder blade. Something that like wouldn't really be like hurt in battle, because like you'd hope most of the time you're facing your opponent. The only way that it would happen is if you got cheap shotted. And it's coverable by armor. You can just wear like a shoulder strap. You can wear a helmet.
We've all got that at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
know.
I'm literally living in a magical world where my mum can dunk me in the river and I become invulnerable. What about you? Where would you have yours?
Probably like underarm, but if I could be more specific, back of the underarm.
Yeah.
How many people have touched you there in your life? You know that little soft bit?
Yeah.
It's
maybe when I'm being embraced.
Even
so someone could bring me in for a hug with a knife and then bam.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're in this fantasy world, just don't hug anyone.
Yeah,
you'd be better off.
Yeah.
All right, other series you want to talk about?
I just wanted to... So I want to talk a little bit about Utah, Dallas, just quickly. Before I do that, though, I wanted to just mention something that I forgot to mention when we were talking about Boston and Brooklyn.
Yeah. In
the fourth quarter today, Daniel Tice took, I think it must be the shortest jump shot in NBA history. He literally grabbed an offensive rebound. He had 2 feet in the paint, closer to the rim than the block.
Yeah.
He's literally like could have reached out with one arm and touched the rim.
Yeah.
And he just took a little fadeaway. He just took a little one-legged Dirk fadeaway from like 1 foot away from the rim. And I was just like, that's fucking hilarious. That is the most DeAndre Ayton thing I've ever fucking seen in my entire life. Just dunk it, bro. Just fucking dunk it.
Actually, I'll start us off on this. I was wrong about the Raptors. I thought the Raptors were going to be fine against Joel Embiid, and then they'll just lock down James Harden. And while they have locked down James Harden,
James Harden's locked down himself.
They haven't locked down Tyrese Maxey, which I was like, okay, you've got all these guys that are purpose built to guard small people. To just look to the left of James Harden, but yeah, Joel Embiid just eating everything.
Well, they don't actually have anyone purpose built to guard Maxey. They've got all of their wings.
Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, but Van Vliet like has not been himself. So I mean, fair call, but he hasn't been himself defensively. Maxey's been
very good.
We talked about filleting before, like all of their wings can rotate through on Harden, and I thought the same. I picked them to win on our predictions episode on the JVG feed last week. Just because I was like, there's so many arms in the way.
Yeah. Just
double Embiid late, make him pass it out, make someone else beat you. Obviously, in game 1, Maxey beat them. And then today in game 3, for them to be in control of the game the whole way, the 76ers took their first lead of the game with like 5 minutes left in regulation. And then it went to overtime because tied at 93 all, I think. Precious Achiuwa had 2 free throws to win the game and missed them both. So it goes to overtime. And then in overtime, OG Anunoby gets a pretty suspect like benefit of the doubt call.
Yeah.
Goes to the line to put them up by 2, and he puts them up by 1 instead. And then, Embiid hits a game-winning 3. So that's much like the Brooklyn experience today. That's a gut punch. Like, there's no coming back from that. Obviously, 3-0 down, there's no coming back from it. But
Good to see Joel Embiid like hit the game winner in the stadium where he lost to Kawhi's game winner and was very upset.
I didn't even think about that. That's really that's full circle.
Yeah. 3 years ago.
Yeah, crazy. Arguably the greatest photo in NBA history. That one of Kawhi in the corner.
Yeah.
All
right, so you wanted to talk about Utah?
Yeah, like I watched a little bit of shall we call it the Brunson game, game 2, with Dallas in a 1-0 hole, Luka not playing, feeling like if you lose both of the first 2 games at home and then you go to Utah with or without Luka, that's going to be a tall order. And Brunson just puts in fucking 41 and 8.
With 0 turnovers.
And we talked before about their perimeter D. We talked about it before, like Royce O'Neal is the designated stopper. And Royce O'Neal is a fine defender, but he's not someone who's going to like stop like a small jittery point guard.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've seen it in the playoffs before, like pull Gobert away from the rim, dual penetration. They can't keep him there. Get to the rim before Gobert can recover, or kick it out for open threes. I'm looking at you, Maxi Kleber. But I wanted to talk about the perimeter D. Like Donovan Mitchell just gets a pass.
Because he scores so much.
In this defensive conversation, everyone's like, oh, like they got like Royce O'Neal and then like no one else. And it's like, well, like why is Donovan Mitchell not a good defender? Because he's got all the tools. Not that means anything. We've seen so many guys who don't defend because they got all the tools. Maybe it's because he's carrying such a load. But Jalen Brunson was tearing them up, and Mitchell was, when he got matched up on him, he was barely even defending him. He was literally defending him like he was playing like in the Rucker League and he just wanted to get the ball back so he could go and score. Like literally just like, here you go, just drive past me, like hands up, like hands like literally above his head, like not in a defensive stance. Defending on the perimeter against someone like Brunson, you're not even in a defensive stance.
Yeah.
Screams to me, much like the shades of the Kyrie conversation before. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it.
Not 2 in 1 episode, does they?
And it was just embarrassing, to be honest. Like, you're Donovan Mitchell. You shouldn't be getting absolutely torched in an individual matchup versus Jalen Brunson, who's an amazing player, but you're literally an All-NBA caliber player. Like, be better. Take a bit of pride. Yeah. I think, like, it'll be... If Luka can't come back, like this series, obviously it's tied at 1-1.
I think let's assume he's coming back in Game 5.
Yeah, well, if Luka can't come back into Game 5, this series is still very, very much in the balance. And I don't even think that, if it's 4-4 in Game 5, like going into Game 5, Luka comes back, that's necessarily that the Mavs are going to... Sorry, if it's 2-2, that the Mavs are going to win. So we'll have to wait and see, but Utah just like have shown that the same, not only have the same problems that have plagued them for the last 4 postseasons persist and are exploitable, but it's not even like they're playing hard and like trying to like make up for it. They're really just. It seems like this is going to be the end.
Yeah,
one way or the other,
and
they're already
some of the comments that Jonathan Mitchell's saying, where he's like, "Oh, this is just the same. We always lose this way. It's like getting repetitive." He said that after Game 2.
Yeah. How long until Donovan Mitchell plays for the Knicks? Donovan Mitchell and Julius Randle playing for the Knicks. RJ Barrett and a first-round pick for Donovan Mitchell. Who says no? Obviously Utah.
Good question. All right, before we wrap up, I'll just read you one quote that Law Murray of The Athletic had.
We love Law.
I think he's actually changed places now.
Has he?
No, he hasn't. So
he's good, Law.
Yeah. Why are you smiling?
No, like literally, he's a good reporter.
Yeah.
The Athletic has some amazing reporters and some shit reporters.
Are you getting paid for it? Jesus Christ! So 6 players have.
Just let me live.
6 players have had in a playoff game 40+ points, 2 steals, and 0 turnovers. Kobe Bryant in 2004, Michael Jordan in 1998, Jason Richardson in 2010.
Oh, who was he playing for then? I wonder.
Don't know.
Was it the Western Conference finalists Phoenix Suns?
Well,
I think it was.
The other player was Chris Paul last year in the Western Conference Finals. Then Jalen Brunson 2 days ago and Jimmy Butler yesterday.
Yeah. Jimmy was good.
Jimmy was good.
45 points, not bad.
He was the only good player of that whole entire team.
Yeah.
All right, Dante, I will speak to you next week, hopefully less congested.
Oh, definitely less congested. Time will sort you out.
I think it heals all wounds.
Anyway, have a Strepsil, get some rest.
Doctors hate it. We were over the moon when we first heard that the NBA was going to be televised on Australian free-to-air TV in the 2019-20 season. It didn't exactly go swimmingly, with the nasty cough halting the season and games getting cancelled left, right and centre, but it was a huge step and an exciting one for basketball fans all across the country.
Better yet, it wasn't a commercial channel cashing in on some basketball nerds like us. It was SBS, one of our public broadcasters. Unfortunately, the NBA wasn't the only thing SBS was pushing last season. They also ran advertisements from Sportsbet, Ladbrokes, Bet365, BetEasy, and Neds, some of the biggest sports betting companies in Australia.
In a one step forwards, two steps backwards move, SBS has dropped the ball here. As a public broadcaster, SBS plays a key role in providing relevant, culturally appropriate health information to local communities. The last thing SBS should be doing is offering a platform for gambling companies during the most financially unstable time in recent memory.
This past year, men aged 18 to 24 made up 79% of new gambling account holders, with increased median spending and frequency of bets. This is the last thing we should be spending our money on given the financial uncertainty that comes with the pandemic. During COVID lockdowns, wagering companies spent more money on advertising and incentives to gamble, and it worked. SBS needs to hear from viewers that gambling ad revenue isn't worth the harm it causes. Call on the SBS chair, George Savitas, to put community health ahead of gambling revenue by signing the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/get gambling off SBS with hyphens in between.